Tonight, I want to talk about the movie Moonfall. This movie is co-written and directed by Roland Emmerich. The other writers are Spencer Cohen and Harold Closer. Cohen is probably best known as one of the writers for Extinction, a Netflix movie with Michael Pena and Lizzie Kaplan. And Closer he helped write 2012 with Emmerich and composed music for a lot of Emmerich's films. When I first saw the trailer for this movie, it reminded me a lot of Independence Day meets 2012. That's pretty fitting since Roland Emmerich directed both of those movies as well. This movie stars Halle Berry, Patrick Wilson, and John Bradley. The moon is on a collision course with Earth, and a lone scientist discovers this and warns a reluctant hero. We've all seen this movie before. It's every disaster movie that's been made. That's the formula. We expect it. And that's where this movie kind of falls short. It feels like it's trying to follow a formula. It's like a paint-by-numbers movie. It hits a beat, moves on. We don't get much in the way of character development. There's a little bit for Michael Pena's character, and an argument could be made for Patrick Wilson's son's character. That's about it. Now I hear what you're saying. Why do we need character development in a disaster movie? Well, I mean, it's because we want somebody to root for. We want them to be a good person deep down. There's a part in the movie in 2012 where the stepdad, who's actually a decent guy, dies so that John Cusack's character can get back with the mom. Why did that need to happen? There can be healthy relationships in this type of family, but it didn't fit the fantasy or the formula, so he died. That happens a lot in these types of films, and normally we write it off because we're too busy enjoying the destruction. I mean, it's a disaster movie after all. But that's another spot of this movie that I feel it fails to deliver on. The movie is literally the moon coming into the atmosphere of Earth, and we only get a few buildings torn down and some earthquakes? Really? I mean, it scratches an itch. The last disaster movie that came out that I actually enjoyed was Greenland. It had a lot more heart than I expected. Gerard Butler was decent in it, and Morena Baccarin was really good. That movie worked because they focused more on the characters and limited how many concurrent storylines were happening. Moonfall had a lot going on, and I feel like they tried to put too much in one movie. It's not the worst movie I've ever seen. It definitely scratches the disaster movie itch. But, I mean, those are kind of a guilty pleasure of mine. The movie was originally going to have Josh Gad in it, playing the character that John Bradley ended up playing, but scheduling kind of forced him out. I think it actually made it better. I know the type of character that Gad would have played. I mean, we all saw it in the movie Pixels, so I think Bradley did a better job with this. Stanley Tucci was going to play the part that Michael Pena ultimately played, but COVID travel restrictions prevented him from being able to make it to set. I think Tucci would have done really well in that role. Pena did a good job, but the character didn't have a lot going on. It was just all surface. And that, I mean, honestly, that kind of stunk. Donald Sutherland, completely wasted in this movie. Not even sure why he was there. He had just a few lines, maybe 3 minutes of screen time. This movie cost $140 million. Most of that went to special effects. The shots where the moon gets close to Earth, they definitely got their money's worth. Those shots were beautiful. The space scenes looked fantastic. The interior shots of the moon looked awesome and really futuristic. Money well spent on that. But there were some effects that could have used a little extra time. The miniatures are the main ones I'm thinking of. It looked like a scene in the movie Superman when the dam breaks and all the water comes crashing down. You know what scene I'm talking about. Those look like miniatures. For this movie to have cost that much, I should not be able to tell that those are miniatures. The exterior shots in the snow, it looked like powder that they were walking on. But I gotta give it a little bit of leeway. It's technically an independent film. It was shot with COVID protocols in place. Lionsgate is on the opening crawl, but that's the studio that picked up the distribution for it. It wasn't made by a main studio, so it does get a pass for some of this stuff. Ultimately, I'm going to have to give this movie a 3.0. If you like disaster movies and you understand the formula of them, this movie's just okay. There are better ones. There are worse ones also. There's a reason this movie's being dumped in February. It's probably the fact that it costs so much. It probably didn't screen well for test audiences. But this is it. We get a disaster movie. But that's it for me. Let me know if you saw this movie or plan on seeing it. As always, this is a conversation. I want to hear from you. So let me know in the comments what you thought, and I will see you next time.